period where we're not divided if we do have sort of deep fundamental disagreements where we're not just talking about, you know, marginal tax rates. We're talking about the legitimate, you know, size and scope and meaning and reason for the government.
Well, I think there are some factors here that we could probably agree on that are contributing to a lot of the division in our country. And it's not orange man bad. It's things like gerrymandering. It's things like tech companies having a monopoly and not regulating the messaging on there. And we may disagree on that, but I think that there's a lot of fake news, shall we say, on both sides that tends to lean negative and cause problems and get people divided, right? And, you know, all of a sudden people think forest fires are being started in California by Antifa super soldiers, you know? And so there is a lot of you know, misinformation that can be deadly at this point, and things with the pandemic too that cause problems. And you know, I just think we don't have to fight like this. And also, I think, like, what are your thoughts on ranked choice voting? Like, don't you think third parties being more viable may help heal our democracy a little bit? Stuff like that.
Oh, no, I don't. I've never really looked into that deeply and really studied it because I don't. It's never been a realistic possibility in the United States. I mean, it's an interesting theoretical discussion, but frankly, I think, you know, I think the system that we have, including the two-party system, you know, has served us well over time. I think the way that we fix our issues in this country have to do with individual changes and individual morality and individual involvement and people being more involved in politics and things like that, as opposed to making sort of, you know, structural, permanent, you know, major changes to the Constitution or how we vote or doing all these different things. I mean, I think the problems that we have are a result of the people losing morality and people not paying attention to politics or being involved. And I don't think, you know, changing sort of the system of voting is going to fix the underlying problems.
Yeah, the morality thing is interesting because we couldn't be on polar opposite ends of something like that, right? Like religion plays no role in my life at all, whereas in your life it's in the forefront. And I don't know how we bridge that divide. You know what I mean?
No, it's tough. I mean, that's why freedom of religion is so important. And as long as we still have that, I don't think necessarily we have to bridge that divide. It's like, I'll let you do your thing, you let me do mine, and, you know, we'll go about our days.
Well,
I mean,
the only thing that bothers me about that is I hear that, and I believe you mean that in your heart, but then I see the treatment people like Ilhan Omar gets and just Muslims in general in this country. And it's like they're not even given a chance. I'm not saying you personally, but, you know, like just the vitriol towards someone like Ilhan Omar and just her religion is frustrating. I feel like the right should be a champion of Ilhan Omar because of her stance on religion, right? Whether they agree with it or not, right? But it is her choice to live by that religion. You
yeah,
disagree?
I disagree. I disagree about the reason why there's so much, you know, dislike for Ilhan Omar. I think people don't like her and are mad at her and don't think she should be in Congress because of the things that she said and the things that she
Sure.
believes about the United States. I mean, you know, maybe I'm sure there are some people out there who are religious bigots against Muslims, but I think the bigger problem in the United States is actually religious bigotry against Christians. I mean, the amount of people that think it's totally fine to discriminate against Christians and hate on Christians and be bigoted against Christians, I think is a problem.
My camera died for some reason, but I heard everything you said there. Um, I do see this focus shift to Christians and the idea that they are being persecuted. I really can't get into a debate on that. But I think our country's changing, right? And I think as more religions become acceptable and the number of, for example, Muslims rises in this country, Christians kind of get pushed a little further back, whereas they were in the spotlight for a long, long time. And I think that comes with our First Amendment and just allowing for freedom of religion. I think white people are dealing with that as well, and this comes from someone who is white. There, as other people move up in the world, and we want everybody to experience a good life. A lot of white people out there feel that they're losing now, right? And I just think it doesn't have to be like that. And I'm worried that Christians are kind of falling into that victimhood a little bit. And I don't mean that to be mean or anything like that. I don't think white people lose anything when black people get more, and I don't think Christians lose anything when other religions are brought up a little bit. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I see what you're saying. I think we'll have a moment here, depending on Trump's nominee, to really see how the left feels about people. Because I've already seen some Democrats being attacking Amy Coney Barrett for her religion and stuff, and so. I guess, I think this is going to be a big test. Honestly, I've been talking about how this is going to be something I'm paying attention to, is to see how much of the opposition to Trump's potential nominee is going to be based on their religion.
I know she's a Catholic, if I'm not mistaken. She's deeply religious. And there's this quote of Dianne Feinstein going around where she kind of gave her a hard time. But from what I read, she didn't have that contentious of a confirmation process for her current position. I mean, do you think otherwise?
I don't think she. I mean, I don't think she got like 53 votes, if I remember correctly.
She may not have got a lot of votes, but from what I read, it wasn't exactly a Brett Kavanaugh situation. It was more of a kind of a standard, let's move this through the process, this cog through the process. Right. But I agree. I think it's up in the air right now what's going to happen. And I think the Democrats are cognizant of that, right? They know the nation's watching them and they know an election's coming up. So I'd be surprised if they go so hard in the paint like they did with Brett Kavanaugh, who was in the middle of a term. There wasn't really much that could be done, but I guess we'll see.
Right, it's going to be super interesting. Well, so I wanted to talk to you, and one of the issues I wanted to talk to you about is the Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and we wanted to talk to you before the debates, and so then I was thinking it would be cool, we could have another one of these discussions after the debates, and we can see how our sort of thoughts have changed. But now that we've got the Supreme Court nominee, we can count this as a discussion of RBG replacement nominee, and then we can have one discussion afterwards. But so if you don't mind, maybe this can be the last thing we talk about is we can. I mean, we talked about like polling and the election and who we think is going to win and stuff like that, but we haven't really talked about the merits of like Joe Biden and Donald Trump and who we think is going to do better in the debates. And I mean, I view Joe Biden as just almost a clown. I feel bad for him. He doesn't have what it takes. He's struggling. He gaffes all the time. He's sleepy. He's tired. He's not very sharp. He just doesn't seem to be. I mean, he just doesn't have it. I mean, I don't know. Do you disagree with that?
I do, and I think, and this might make you laugh, but I think that you guys are going to be in for the shock of your life, because we've been watching his speeches over here, and you probably saw his DNC speech, which was pretty widely approved as a pretty strong speech, no gaffes and pretty emotional. And he's had a fire lit under him. I don't know. Have you watched any of his speeches or anything? Any of his live streams or anything like that?
I've seen some of them, yeah, and I've seen more. I guess. I mean, he doesn't do as much as Donald Trump does, so there's so much more Donald Trump content out there. Sure. But no, I've seen Joe Biden, and I'll give you it. Like he's appeared to be okay on some of them. Including his DNC speech, which is like, I do actually wonder if how is it that sometimes he comes out and he's he's on fire and he's energetic and he's doing well. And then other times it's like he's really struggling. I mean, it does seem like
Well,
there's a huge difference.
I mean, are you implying what Donald Trump has said, that he believes he's on drugs?
I mean, I'm not saying here that like I think he is on drugs, but
Okay.
I question like, okay, if he's not, he's not, but why is there such a huge difference between some of his speeches?
Well, this is a guy who was barely hanging on to the nomination before just a few months ago. 6 months ago, he had no money raised, and he was looking awfully rusty. And yeah, he had his problems during the 2020 primary. He wasn't my pick, but I've really warmed up to him, and it's gone from we need to get this guy over the finish line, who cares what he is, to I actually think this guy's got some good stuff going on, and he's got a lot of political capital and momentum that we can actually accomplish some stuff. But I think he's sharp right now, and I know that may come as a shock to you and like your audience, but I think that he is the perfect pick right now when it comes to the idea of empathy. I believe that this election is going to come down to people just kind of being sick of fighting with each other. There's something about me that says people are tired of being at each other's throats. And we want to get along with each other, right? We got enough problems in the rest of the world to be fighting amongst ourselves, And I love getting along with you, and I want to get along with my fellow Americans. I want to disagree over the top tax rate instead of all this other stuff. You know what I mean? And I just worry that Donald Trump doesn't have that goal in mind. Donald Trump is very divisive, right? This is a guy who simply cannot reach out to the other side, and that worries me. And I think a lot of other Republicans are starting to feel that way too. And we saw them come forward during the DNC, and they said, "Look, don't support Joe Biden's policy. Don't really care for him that much as a person, but Donald Trump, unfortunately, is dividing us further and further, and I worry about the permanent damage to our country because of that." So I really think Joe Biden's going to come out strong. The format makes me think he's going to do very well in the debate because it's three people in that room: Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Chris Wallace. And you and I both know that Chris Wallace is no fan of Donald Trump, per that last interview he did with him on Fox News. There's no audience in the room to laugh at Donald Trump. And I think if he starts walking around and doing the same stuff he did in the Hillary debate, it's not going to go so well. But I can imagine one of your responses, and what I hear a lot is, yeah, Hillary did well in the debates too. So what?
Well, I think Donald Trump won the debates against Hillary, but I just don't. I don't under. I'm surprised to hear you actually say that you're getting excited for Joe Biden, because I haven't really heard anybody say that they're actually excited for him. I mean, he's the most establishment insider. He's been in Washington, D.C. his whole life. Nobody really ever knows what he stood for. He supported the '94 crime bill. He's got this long history of like horrible positions, and I think we've heard some serious concerns about his corruption level, and he just seems like a typical politician. And I don't know, it's just like, for being such a like standard politician, like a boring politician, I haven't heard that many people get excited about him, and I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, I agree. I don't think that there's a lot of people out there, and you could make the same poke at me and saying, well, what is there, a shy majority of Biden supporters who don't want to put the sign on their lawn and all that? And I would have to acquiesce that to you. It is. I don't think there is a lot of excitement for Joe Biden, but I think there's a lot of excitement to not have what Donald Trump is, and I think that's enough to get him over the line. Now, someone like myself, who's into the policy and follows it on a daily basis, I see some real opportunity. So, for example, Joe Biden has talked about lowering the age of Medicare to 60. All of a sudden, that's going to open up Medicare to 20 million more people who are in the workplace, no longer have to stay at their job for the benefits, which a lot of people do. And a lot of people are going to see that. And I actually think it eventually leads to Medicare for all at some point as more and more people get into it. So stuff like that gets me started, sort of fired up. And then I hear, like, I believe we're going to take the Senate based on what I was saying with the number of Republican seats that are toss-ups. We only got to win 3 of them, and there's 6 at least that are considered toss-ups if we win the presidency. And I'm just excited to see what this Senate can do with this House. I mean, I just see a lot of opportunity on the horizon. And Joe Biden, just like any Democrat, is simply signing paperwork in the White House to approve these laws. So for me, that's the excitement, and that's where I start to get interested. And I would note that even Bernie Sanders voted for that crime bill. So there was a consensus all across the left and a lot of people on the right too that crime bill was appropriate for the time. And anybody who's got decades of service is going to have some bad votes looking back on things. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. Um, I don't necessarily. I think that I think the way you feel is that you're excited about not having to fight and stuff. I don't think that translates into like there's a huge amount of American people out there who are sick of the political fighting. I think there are certainly a lot of people out there like that, but all those people have just tuned out and they're most likely not going to vote. I mean, we still only get like 55% voter participation in a presidential election. I mean, we literally have 45% of the American people don't even vote in presidential elections. And
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, so I just think I think that there's 45% of Americans, I think, who are sick of the political fighting and they don't vote. I think this is why I I think that presidential politics is all about get out the vote. It's all about get out the base. It's all about exciting your base, having an enthusiastic base, because when you have only 55% voter participation rate, your races are won and lost by whether your base gets out and vote. It has nothing to do with, trying to convince, the moderates or the independents or this, that, and the other thing. And so maybe you're right that there is this huge amount of people out there who are sick of political fighting and want to vote for Joe Biden because they think it'll end that. But from a Trump supporter, like, number one, we are not sick of the political fighting. We're like just getting started in terms of trying to, get things accomplished and stuff. And number two, we don't think that Joe Biden would end it. We think that Joe Biden would make it worse and would he's an empty vessel for the radical left. Nobody thinks that Joe Biden is actually a radical leftist himself. We just think that he's too weak to stand up to the radical left. And so he's already basically signed the manifesto with Bernie. He put Beto in charge of guns. He's talked about the Green New Deal with the AOC and the squad. And it's like, I don't think Biden really actually has deep-seated, political beliefs and stuff. He's your standard say anything, do anything politician. He cares about getting elected, but I don't think anybody really knows, why is Joe Biden even running? What actually excites Joe Biden? What motivates him? Whereas with Donald Trump, it's pretty clear. And I think there's a huge enthusiasm gap, and I think it's because Donald Trump excites the base, and I think that's one of the reasons, I feel confident about him winning. But Joe Biden just I don't know, man. I don't think he excites the base, which is why I think that he's in trouble, because without getting out the vote, and with such a huge percentage of Americans not voting at all, I think he's going to struggle.
Well, I don't think you're wrong about Joe Biden personally not exciting people. That can't be ignored. And I think Kamala Harris' pick as his VP showed how people can get excited about him. And it was a record-setting day for donations, and just they've been pouring money into the party ever since he made that choice. And a lot of people are looking at who he's going to surround himself with. You mentioned AOC and Beto. I don't think that they're going to play that prominent of a role. I'm not sure what this is about Beto being in charge of guns. I haven't seen that personally. I'd be curious to see what you're talking about there. But because as far as I know, Beto is working on flipping the Texas State House. But I feel like a lot of people on the right feel that individuals like AOC and Beto have a lot more influence in the party than someone like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, and who are more centrist moderates. And I don't know how to correct that, besides it's not exciting to talk about Chuck Schumer as it is to say the radical left AOC is like taking over him. But I just think that the momentum is there right now, and people are excited about who could be in his cabinet. People are excited about who he would put on the Supreme Court. And, I look at someone like myself. I didn't go to a protest until Donald Trump was elected. I went 37 years of my life without going to a protest. And to me, that may be an anecdote, but if I'm involved, then I guarantee a whole lot of other people on the left are starting to get involved now too. And that all has to do with Donald Trump. Now, I worry once Donald Trump's gone, how do we keep these people motivated? That's for sure. But I agree with you, Lecture, that if Donald Trump wins, it's going to come down to him getting out his base. It's not about bringing new people in. He couldn't care less about new Republicans signing up. He's more worried about getting his hardcore base out. And he doesn't have to do it by a lot. He's got to win places like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. But I worry for you guys. I mean, I know we talked about the polls, and you've got your grievances with them, especially statewide ones. But in Wisconsin, it looks like Joe Biden's doing a lot better and out of the margin of error. And I was just looking at a graphic before we got on the call. In Pennsylvania, the number of Democrats requesting mail-in ballots versus Republicans is just huge. I mean, it's an absolute blowout. And I worry for you guys that you're going to have all these Republicans who don't want to participate in mail-in voting show up on the election day and find out what voter suppression looks like as they stand in a 3-hour line.
Well, I disagree that that Trump is not attracting any new voters, and in fact, many people in 2016 voted for Trump, and it's the first time they've ever voted. And so when I talk about getting out the base, I'm not talking about getting out people that have been long-term voters and stuff. I think that Trump is actually registering a lot of new voters. His rallies are an incredible, data boost to the campaign, and they register. And there's a huge percentage of people that are showing up at Trump rallies that have never voted before and have never been involved. And so I think that there is actually a lot of like new voters and new people coming in to support Trump. And I guess what I would say to the thing about Joe Biden, and you basically admitted this, that one of the primary motivating factors is the hatred for Trump. And I think if you look historically, opposition to a candidate is never enough to actually win. You have to have people that are actually excited for your candidate, him or herself. I just don't think opposition to Trump is enough to actually motivate people to actually vote. I mean, Biden, I don't think anybody could actually tell you what Biden stands for, other than he's not Trump. Hate Trump, anti-Trump, orange man bad. I don't think that's enough.
We'll see. I mean, the 28 midterms, most congressional districts lurch to the left, and I can't really think why, except Donald Trump and a reaction to him. But, and I would kind of point back to 2010 with the Tea Party. That seemed to be in opposition to Obama to some degree. But I wish there was more, and I wish we had a more charismatic, exciting figure. But I kind of also think that Americans kind of want somebody like Joe Biden, who reminds them of the past and has empathy. And I think that it's more than just not Trump for a lot of people with Biden. I don't think it's an excitement for policy or something, but more of just man, this guy's calm and cool, and he gets along with some Republicans. And I think that our division can be healed a bit, and I think that motivates a lot of people. I could be wrong. I wanted to ask you about one more thing. I know you wanted to end on this, but mail-in voting. What's going to happen here, man? Like, we're going to have our election. We're going to have the results that day, and then we're going to have about 2 weeks of results coming in. Like, what do you think happens to our country because of this process?
Oh, I think it's absolutely terrible for the country. Obviously, this is a bad thing for the country to not have an election day result, and I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely horrible. I think we should have voting processes that are secure. I think you should have to prove citizenship to register. I think you should have to show an ID to vote. I don't like how unsecure mail balloting is. I don't think it's smart to send out ballots to every registered voter when you know for a fact that the voter registration rolls are not accurate nor are they updated. I think it's a very, very dangerous, horrible situation that the Democrats are putting this country in. And again, all for partisan political purposes. They like this whole thing about coronavirus. We need to do mail-in voting from coronavirus. What a complete pretext for their own partisan goals. They want to do this because they need people who are uninformed, ignorant, lazy, to vote. Otherwise, the Democrats aren't going to win. And so, in order to get those people to vote, they think that the best way to do it is with mail ballots. And it's not a good way to go. And this post election day, I'm pretty concerned about. What's going to happen, especially with, I mean, if Trump wins, I think that the left is going to riot and loot like we've never seen before. I think it's going to be a dangerous situation. And I think the Democrats are going to file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and this may end up going to the Supreme Court, and there's going to be questions about the integrity of the election. And we have way less public confidence in our voting system right now than we ever had in the history of the United States, and that's because Democrats for the last 30 or 40 years have pushed voting change after voting change after voting change that have made the elections less secure, including things such as same-day voter registration, mail-in ballots, motor voter ID, automatic voter registration, early voting, not having to show an ID to register, not having to prove citizenship to vote, or vice versa. All of these different changes that Democrats have done over the years have resulted in a situation where I think we've got ourselves into a very dangerous situation where the public confidence in the integrity of the elections is very much in question.
So without responding to, I don't want to rebut any of that. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. My question is, how does our country survive this election? I mean, if you believe, like you said, that if Donald Trump wins, the left is going to become violent and riot and stuff like that, and we believe on the left that if Donald Trump wins, or if Joe Biden wins, are people on the right going to accept that? You know what I mean? Or what's going to happen if Joe Biden wins? You know what I mean? So what do we do?
Well, I think if you look at history, it's actually the Democrats are the ones that refuse to accept election results. This whole idea that Trump or the Republicans are the ones going to be not accepting election results is preposterous. I mean, Democrats never accepted the 2000 election results. Democrats haven't accepted the 2016 election results. Hillary Clinton is the one that told Joe Biden he shouldn't concede under any circumstances. If Trump loses, we'll accept it. We'll go on with our lives because that's what Republicans and conservatives and Trump do. That's what we do, and there'll be no concern. The concern is, I think, the bigger issue is if Trump wins and the Democrats basically refusing to accept the results.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I can just say that we have the mirror image on the other side where we're worried about the right not accepting a Biden victory, and it starts at the top. A lot of people aren't really talking about this, but I think without a Donald Trump concession, that it leads to a lot of problems. And I'm glad to hear you say otherwise, that you think people will accept it. And but I just worry that if he doesn't do that, it's going to be a problem.
I mean, if there's actual evidence of voting fraud and voting irregularities, and if trunks full of ballots start showing up a week after the election, and Democrats all of a sudden found 20,000 ballots in the trunk of somebody's car, and things like that start happening, then there's obviously going to be questions. But barring actual proof of issues, the Republicans have a history of accepting results. It's actually the Democrats who historically refuse to accept. And again, at 2000 to 2016.
Yeah, just for example, we had this special election here in California, the 25th district, where Katie Hill stepped down and Mike Garcia ran against a Democrat. I forgot her name now, but before the weekend before, Donald Trump was on Twitter saying it's a rigged election and Gavin Newsom has rigged it, and then it turned out the Republican won, and he didn't say anything. So I just kind of worry about the narrative that Trump is putting out there before the election results even come in, that it's already rigged. I mean, does that bother you at all that Donald Trump says stuff like that before he has any proof and before things have even been counted yet?
Well, Trump has never said that the 2020 election is rigged. He said that there's concerns about voter fraud, especially when you do universal mail-in ballots in places that are not equipped to do it, which is completely rational to be concerned about.
Well, I don't have any instance in front of me, but he's definitely hinted, and I mean, based on what he did in the California 25th district, where he said the weekend before that it's all rigged and Newsom rigged it. I don't remember, but I feel like
I
he's
don't
going to
remember
do
that.
that again. Oh, you don't? Yeah. He tweeted. It's probably still out there since he doesn't delete his tweets. But then he was quiet as a mouse after Garcia won. But I worry that he's going to put that narrative again out the weekend before. And it doesn't sound like you're concerned about that. So that's good. I mean, I'm glad to hear that.
No, I don't. I mean, I think it depends on the facts, depends on the evidence. Obviously, with lots of states doing massive mail-in voting, there's obviously concerns about the integrity of the election. But barring, actual evidence, like I don't see there's going to be any concern with it.
Gotcha.
So let me ask you one. Well, I guess before I let you go here,
Sure.
do you think Joe Biden is going to do well in the debate against Donald Trump?
I think Joe Biden's going to do phenomenal in the debate.
Okay.
I know.
Wow.
I know. Even people on the left look at me like I'm nuts. But I'm basing this off of what I've been seeing, and nobody's watching any of his live events. Why would he be doing Facebook live streams? Why would he be taking questions from reporters? And nobody can point to a gaffe that he's made since the "you ain't black" thing to Charlemagne the God. You know what I mean? So it's been a few months since he's done anything, and there's clips of him riding a bike and making jokes at Fox News reporters. I mean, this guy is in tip-top shape right now. I'm telling you.
Didn't he just say that 200 million people died of coronavirus?
I don't know. Everybody flubs a word here and there. If that's the worst someone's going to do. I mean, look at Donald Trump. Now, so that's the other thing, is the dichotomy of him versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't go a day without saying something wild. So us on the left, we look at Donald Trump as, this is a guy who spent 15 minutes proving in a rally that he can drink water with one hand and walk down a ramp without any trouble. So I just think you put these two next to each other, and it's going to be pretty obvious which one's sharper. Now,
Wow.
is Joe Biden 100%? But I don't know. But I'm telling you, based on the footage I've seen of him as we watch his long form content, if he wasn't fully there, I don't think they'd be putting him live on TV. I don't think they'd let reporters ask him questions. They would just hide him, and he's out there.
I mean, Joe Biden is like, he's got a list of reporters. He knows the questions in advance. Everything, he's got a teleprompter for everything. Donald Trump is out there, freestyling for hours and hours at a time at these huge rallies, and you've got Joe Biden reading off a teleprompter. I don't think you can compare the two, and I do not think Joe Biden is sharp. I do not think he's going to do well in the debates, and I think it's going to be a disaster for Joe Biden.
Well, only time will tell. But I would just say that at the debate, what is the format? It is not some sort of freestyle thing. It is heavily moderated. It's Chris Wallace, who's not favorable to Donald Trump. And I mean, do you disagree that Chris Wallace is going to be harsh on
No.
Donald Trump?
No. Chris Wallace he's part of the establishment, mainstream media. He's hooked into the fake news. He'll be tough on Trump.
Okay. So if you accepting that and knowing that it is essentially a scripted event, they know what the questions are going to be, right? There's no curveballs. There's no tear jerkers coming from some random audience member or something like that. It's not organic in the sense that it's a freestyle town hall. It's a moderated debate.
Wait,
questions?
How do you know that you think both candidates know all the questions that they're going to be asked at the debate?
I mean, they know essentially what they're going to be asked about, right? I mean,
Well,
there's no
generally,
curveballs.
well, there could
Yeah.
be. I mean, Donald Trump can say whatever he wants and attack Joe Biden on anything he wants, and Joe Biden's going to have to respond. I mean, I think there are going to be curveballs.
But you and I could sit here for 3 hours and probably write down every single thing that they would ask each other. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you can anticipate what 95% of the back and forth is going to be and prepare for that and have prepared responses.
Sure, but the question is can Joe Biden actually recall live
Come on.
actually what he prepared?
Well, I'll just say this. I've seen him participate in some roundtables. I've seen him take questions from audience members, and you may say that that's scripted, but I felt it wasn't, and I thought he did quite well in reciting his policy and what he would do in his position. So I'm pretty confident in his memory. I'd say he'd give most people above the age of 30 a run for their money when it comes to memory.
Okay.
And I can only imagine what you're being shown through the media that you're watching, right? I mean, because it's same thing with us on the left. We're going to see the worst of Donald Trump, and you guys are going to see the worst of Joe Biden, of course.
Well, this is what I would say to you as a friend. I would encourage you to not get yourself truly believing that Joe Biden is super sharp and he's going to win the debate against Trump and he's going to win the election and all this stuff, because it makes it very difficult emotionally to deal with when the opposite happens. So I'd encourage you to mentally prepare yourself for the other thing to happen as a true friend to friend statement, because I don't want to see you being super depressed when Joe Biden just is a disaster at the debates and then gets destroyed in the election.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. Looking out for me and my well-being, and I do appreciate you saying that. And look, anything can happen. You know what I mean? And I've prepared myself for Donald Trump to win, and I prepared myself for Joe Biden to fall apart. Trust me, I was on the edge of my seat during the DNC speech that he was doing live, wondering, oh, God, let's get through this. Please, no mess up. So anything's possible. I'm an optimistic person. And look, I'll make it no matter what happens, but I appreciate you saying that. Hey, and I'm saying don't be surprised if you see Joe Biden wipe the floor with Donald Trump.
All right, I will be surprised with that. I'm not necessarily following my own advice as well as I should.
Well, hey, look, this was a lot of fun lecture. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and chat. We could keep going for hours and hours, but I feel
Totally.
like leaving them wanting more is better. And I love your idea of talking after the debate. So in case everybody out there doesn't know, the debate is next Tuesday, 1 week from today. You're going to be watching it live on your channel, I assume?
Well, if it's not copyrighted, I will. I don't
It's on
know.
C-SPAN.
Oh, it is on C-SPAN.
Yep.
Oh, okay, sweet. Then yeah, I will stream it.
Yeah, everything's going to be on C-SPAN moving forward. All three debates and then the VP debate in the first week of October. So I hope you stream it all so that your community
Sweet.
has a place to come hang out and watch it. And we'll be streaming it here too. And hey, I look forward to talking to you afterwards and hearing what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. Enjoyed it.
Awesome, man. Should we do any sort of outro thing? What do you think?
I think pretty much everybody watching me knows who you are, and probably vice versa. So I'm good.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well, let's leave it at that, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot.